Call me phone. Mr. Phone.
Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody. How you doing?
Hiya.
Hello.
Very good. Very good.
So, this evening, our special guest is Mr. John Layman, most famous for Chew and now a new book called Bermuda, which we're going to talk about. Unfortunately, there's been a confusion with the time zones, and John can't make it along. So he's still having lunch.
Got about daylight savings, didn't you, Shane?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure what happened, actually. Google told me that 8 o'clock was now. But apparently Google was wrong, and 8 o'clock is in 1 hour's time. So we haven't got our guest tonight. So we didn't think it would be right to show you the artwork and talk about the book without him here with us. So we're going to rearrange with John to come back on another time and talk about the new book. It's not actually out until July. So we are quite far in advance. And we might be able to show you a little bit more of it when we reschedule. So very sorry, guys. We thought we'd just come on and let you know rather than just cancel the show and not turn up. We didn't think that would be very good. So this broadcast will remain on YouTube for a little while, but then we will take it down because there's no point in keeping this for a long period of time. How are you guys doing? You all right?
Very good. Very good.
Good. Thank you very much for turning up.
Well, it's raining outside, so where else are we going to go?
Exactly.
Give it a couple more weeks and I'll be doing it from a beer garden, but for now I'm in my front room again.
Well, I'm glad you let me out of my my little box, Shane, for this, but you need someone to talk to.
Well, it's nice to see you out your box, mate. Nice to see you out your box. So I'm not sure exactly when we'll be back with John, but we will be back next week with another guest. I think it's going to be Kelly Jones of Batman fame and many other great books, Dead Man as well. I did a podcast.
Frankenstein Alive.
Yeah, we did. I had a great podcast with him, actually, audio podcast with him a few weeks ago. So this is basically Kelly Jones Part 2. Then we're going to do a live show with him. And that should be next Thursday. And then hopefully John will be back and we can hopefully reschedule for John the week after if he's available. But we will definitely be speaking to John at some point because we have looked at this book, haven't we, guys? And it is absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely stunning. The script, the artwork, it's something very, very special. I mean, I know Nick Bradshaw's a great artist anyway, but this seems to go to the next level. And as we were saying to John on our chat, it would be great if IDW, the people who are publishing this comic, could collect it together on some sort of artist edition like they do with some of the. It really is that good and that detailed. Every single thing, right down to a toenail, is just detailed to impossible.
It's very good.
It's the best thing I've seen him done, and I loved him on Wolverine and the X-Men back in the day. So I've been a big fan of both John and Nick. But I think this is a winning combination. I think the good thing with IDW is, although they do a lot of franchises, when they do invite creator-owned stuff along, I mean, Lock and Key, for example, it really is something special to shout about. It's almost like a boutique comic book publisher in that way. You know, I'm not dismissing Image, who are huge on the creator-owned stuff, but I think IDW tend to get a reputation for franchise comics. And I think when they do things like this, it's really good. I know it's down as a 4-issue miniseries for the moment, but I do hope and suspect from the story, from the really bizarre, wacky, out there story, and the characters in it that we've been privileged to see, it's definitely a winner chicken dinner.
It definitely is, mate, and that's quite a good use of words there.
Winner chicken dinner.
But yeah, I mean, I'd love to. I mean, maybe we should show just like a little tiny preview of some art.
Maybe show a cover, because I know that John's shared the cover for issue 1 and 2 online, but certainly the cover would give a good indication of how good the artworks. And I know we've been able to share the cover on comiccon.com when it was first announced.
Yeah. I mean, have you got some artwork there, Sam, that we can just share the cover or maybe the first page? If we haven't got a cover, the first page.
What are we looking at? Bermuda 1, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So,
Just to give the viewers a little sneak peek of this amazing artwork before we, and for those who have just joined us, I see we've had a couple more people join. John, unfortunately, cannot make it. He got his. Well, I'm not sure who got it wrong. It might have been me.
It's Google. It's
Google. Let's blame
Google.
Got the time zones wrong, so he's still having his tea. All his lunch, actually. We're about to have our tea. So John will be joining us another day, but we are going to share just a little bit of artwork.
I'm trying to. Hang on.
As a sneak peek ahead of the next show. For those who just joined us, next Thursday we will be talking to Kelly Jones, the artist, not the singer from the band. What band is that? Some Welsh band.
Stereo Watts? Over the hill.
Not him. The comic
Welsh Oasis.
So what we got? We got a little. There we are. Page 1 of issue 1. Lovely bit of artwork from. Do you want to scroll up, Sam?
Yeah, hang on.
I can see the tail end of a millionaire/billionaire's plane.
Yes. And yeah, they're having a tough time in the storm there. That's not going to end well, is it? I think that's pretty obvious.
I think the clue's in the title. Bermuda.
This is going to be a very bumpy ride.
Yeah. So that's all we're going to show you for now.
Yeah, that's it. Look, that's some great plane art there.
It is. But you wait till you see the other art, guys. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, I mean, look at the design on that plane. I mean, planes can be the most boring of things to do. And when you've got a plane like that on the first page, it certainly invites you in.
Yeah.
Look at that lightning there. Look, that lightning's great.
So we're going to talk to John hopefully in a couple of weeks. We'll be able to reschedule. It'll still be well ahead of the book coming out. So you'll still have a great sneak peek when we do speak to John. And obviously we'll talk about Chew as well. I'm a massive fan of Chew. I think we all are, aren't we, guys?
Yeah. It's a funny thing because I think I've said this to John in text messages before now, but that was the comic that Neve really fell in love with. Yeah. So in many ways, John not being on today whilst my daughter is out means that I might be able to get her on next time. I'm sure she'd love to ask a couple of questions on Chew herself. So we might have her as a guest presenter in a couple of weeks as well.
That would be really cool, mate. Hey, if we could get some of the YouTube following that your daughter's got, we'd be doing all right.
Yeah. 52,000 followers, and she's only 15.
Amazing.
I don't need a pension at this rate. She can just look after me.
I don't kill for that many subscribers. That's ridiculous.
No one wants to watch middle-aged men talking about comics, do they? That's the truth.
Or about cryptocurrency, Sam.
No, that's true. A lot more people want to watch that than my 2018 videos, though.
But you know what? We could use this opportunity to talk about those sort of things, like what you're doing online, Sam, what I'm doing with Comic Con, and also Shane. Maybe plans for the future. Comic Con's in the future. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Let's make this a nice half hour. It's very rare we get to sort of plug our own little project, and because we've got very similar demographics, but we all do very different things. Yeah, it's very rare to have Sam online and not sort of either feeding his kids or being putting them to bed.
Pizza. They've had their pizza. They've had their pizza. They're out there over there.
So Sam, we'll start with you then, mate. What are you doing online at the moment? What projects have you got going? You're quite busy, aren't you?
Well, I have. I have 2 YouTube channels. One is a cryptocurrency channel, which is whatever. Yeah, exactly.
That's why it's raining, because of the cryptocurrency.
Well, yeah.
If we can blame Google for the time zones being wrong, we can blame the rain for the cryptocurrency.
We can blame the cryptocurrency for destroying the environment bit by bit. Yes,
that bit as well. Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, Sam, let's
not get into that. So yeah, I've got a few subscribers on that, but I've moved over to do more comic book stuff because that's where my true love is.
Yeah,
and I've basically 2000 AD. Every week when it comes out, I get the subscriber copy. Usually it's a Saturday, sometimes it's a Monday, or whenever it arrives. I do an unbagging, open it up. I make a few silly jokes.
that's your opinion.
Open it up and basically just read it on camera.
You do.
You're selling it.
Yeah.
I go to the library and watch people do that.
You'd be surprised what people will watch on YouTube.
I know, I've seen it. My daughter,
I do have to wonder.
for example.
I do have to wonder though. How does 2000 AD feel about you spoiling every issue on YouTube before it goes out?
Yeah, I'm not. I've only got 79 subscribers. I'm small fry, but maybe one day they might. Maybe they one day they might come and have a go at me, and then I'll be like, yes, verified.
Notoriety.
I'm validated. I've actually pissed someone off, because that's what the internet's about: pissing people off. If you piss people off,
we're too nice. That's what it is. We're not pissing people off.
Some people make a career out of that, don't they? Yeah.
Mm.
So
I've also tried doing some other ones. I did Batman Fortnite. Yeah. So first one I did, which essentially I did the same thing. I opened it up because it's a polybag sealed as well. I opened it up and I read it on camera, just pointing out things and whatever. And I think I got about 200 views for that, which I was not too bad.
Yeah,
that's really good.
But then I did the second one and I got 27 views. So, I mean, no one came back for it.
So that number two sort of decline, isn't it? Maybe you just do issue number ones of comics.
Yeah, I'm not doing any more of it. I've decided it's a pain. It's
really?
Yeah.
You're not getting the reward for your work.
No. So I'm moving on. I'm doing more 2000 AD based stuff. I mean, I've done the interviews, which are basically the one with Rob Williams. Well, I say an interview. I popped up, asked
You're like a Welsh highwayman, aren't you? Robbing from us.
And edited. Well, and then I edited you out.
Yeah.
That took a long time. There was that one video I did, and you asked a couple of questions as well. So I edited you out.
You yourself on asking my questions. Yeah.
Yes.
You twat. For those who are just tuning in, I see there's a couple more people tuned in.
They just heard you say twat.
We are supposed to be talking to John Layman. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us because there was a mistake with the time zones. So he will be back in a future show. We have shown a little bit of artwork to just titillate a little bit, and it is beautiful. But for this evening, we won't be talking to John directly, so sorry about that, guys. But we are talking to each other for a little while, so that we can talk about the other projects that we're doing. Yeah. So,
what are you up to, Shane? Before you ask me, what are you able to talk about, and what are you able not to talk about, and what are plans for the future in terms of ice and even Comic Salopia?
Well, it's funny you ask about that because Comic Salopia will be back next year, as will Ice. But we are doing a little project in Shrewsbury, which is about to be announced. But I haven't been able to announce it yet. But all I can say is we have got 9 incredible artists involved in the project. And I can reveal that one of them is Charlie Adlard. And we also have Judge
Charlie the Walking Dead Adlard?
That's the man!
Wow, you've got Charlie!
Strange, that, isn't it?
Great. That's great.
And also John Wagner, the co-creator of Judge Dredd, is involved in as a writer.
I love the way you felt you had to explain who John Wagner was to hopefully people who are comic book fans watching us.
They should know, shouldn't they? Yeah, if you didn't know,
John Wagner,
if you're watching this and you didn't know who John Wagner was, then shame on you.
Yeah.
And we just lost a viewer when I said that, so they were probably not a 2000 AD fan anymore.
No, they're probably one of Sam's cryptocurrency buddies, and they thought, hold on, I'm getting offline now.
Where's the Bitcoin?
We got quite a few at the start. At the start, I kept promoting this channel on my Telegram channel, and we got a lot of people actually, but they've stopped now.
They've stopped.
gone away.
They've had enough. So
they came to find out, and then they realised it was nothing to do with crypto, so they gave it off.
I can mention as well that me and Andy Richmond, the other co-host on the show.
Yeah, hello Andy, if you're out there.
Yeah, all right, Andy. We are working on a new project. We will be returning to the world of comics publishing after maybe a 5-year break. Actually, I thought it was 4 years, but I think it's been 5 years since Scar Comics published anything. So it's a big thing for us. I can't reveal the exact details yet, but I can reveal that we have got an amazing creative team on board on a book. I wish I could tell you about it, but I can't just yet.
And will you be taking that book on the road as things start opening up again then, Shane?
We will. And we'll be doing a Kickstarter as well, but we'll also be offering it through retailers and at shows. And I'm very excited about it. We've got some incredible creators on board. UK comics publishing at the moment, the indie scene is just so exciting. And I think that's why we sort of wanted to get back into it, because we worked quite hard for about a decade on various books, and we sold a lot of books, and it was hard work, and I wouldn't say we got disheartened, but we just got into other things. Andy's still publishing stuff with other people, but Andy's obviously doing his artwork as well. He's doing an amazing array of stuff, and I got more into doing events. I did Comic Salopia, but over the lockdown we chatted and we decided that we really wanted to, revive Scar Comics. So we will be making a return, and I can't wait to tell people more about it. So, Ollie, what about you, mate? What have you been up to?
When I'm not teaching, it's, again, like everybody else, there was a bit of hesitation over the last 12 months. So, as you know, but the viewers might not know, is I'm sort of co-partner of a Birmingham street art and graffiti festival that went under the radar last year, but we're hoping to come back stronger than ever. Yeah.
Thanks, Ed.
And that should be sometime in September. And we're going back to basics, just keeping it street art, keeping it graffiti. The last time we did one, we did have a little mini pop-up Comic Con, which was very well received, actually. But this time, because obviously there's still fears of COVID, we want to just everything back to basics. And then, of course, there's the editing over on comiccon.com, which keeps me busy as well. But, of course, because of the time difference between Britain and America, it fits in very well with my daytime, where I can come back from school and it's still about only 11 o'clock on the East Coast. So it's working well. It's long hours, but it is enjoyable. And I think the team that we've got at Comic Con, and this is something I'm very proud of, when I think other comic book websites and bigger comic book websites kind of struggled, and here's that word that was used a lot last year, we pivoted and encouraged a lot of our writers to create new and frequent columns, which seems to be doing very well even now. So for comiccon.com, I can just see a brighter future and more individual voices speaking their mind on the comics they love. So it's a great bit of fun. It's one of the reasons I was able to get out of teaching. But as I was saying to you off air, comics don't pay the bills. No,
and I think we're all in that bag, aren't we? We're all in that group where comics aren't paying that. Yeah, we're all doing this for the love.
But
comics
listen,
don't pay any of our bills today.
If it wasn't for sort of starting off writing for Bleeding Cool, I wouldn't have met people like you. I wouldn't have met people like Sam. I wouldn't have met people like John. And so here we are 5 years later, all having had a number of experiences together, Brighton, Margate, Comic Salopia, and meeting the people who I've admired, we've all admired from afar, and actually being able to talk to them in a very chummy and chatty way and have a laugh with them. It's like, go back in time and pinch my 18 self and just say, keep your gob shut and keep on reading the comics. It's very, very satisfying development in my life, definitely. And I can't wait for the Comic Con season to start again.
Oh, me too, mate. Me too. I mean,
I think of the comic conventions and the way that we can go and chat to like creators and stuff like that. It's they're our pop stars. Imagine if you were a child, like a pop, you could go to the pub and hang out with some of your like your idols, your pop stars.
Yeah.
And we can, because it's like, oh
But
my
it's
God,
comics.
look, there's Rick Vetch. I remember meeting Rick Vetch. I was like, wow.
Yeah,
and no one else. Other people outside comics might be like, who? What?
Who? Yeah.
But I'm like, wow, it's so cool. Yeah, it's mad.
No, it's really nice. I mean, that's part of the reason I do ice, to be honest.
Well, life is like, I mean, as we all get older, life, I realise, is more about experiences and memories.
Yeah,
and, if I look back at my last 5 years,
you're right, Chris.
When I was at my darkest in education, it was always there was always a Comic Con. There was always a pint to be had in one pub or another, and who you bumped into. I mean, I still remember in Margate, us finding that lovely little pub.
Margate. I should play
that
the
was
video.
amazing, that pub.
I should play the video.
You should have.
There's Sam on karaoke, but also, who was the artist we had on karaoke?
Rodney Ramos.
Rodney
Ramos.
Did he do a great guy?
I think, was it Tom Jones he sang or something like that?
I think he sang throughout the night. I think the pub was just about to shut, I seem to remember.
There was a
and we rocked up. There's always a power cut in Margate, I imagine. But those are the memories. I was able to go to
it was
sort of
tiny.
record store. It was.
And everyone apart from us in that pub with the same family as well.
Yeah, and they got talking to us. They were interested with us.
That was so nice.
It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. They had to finally shut down, but I think those are the memories. Well, I say memories, the hazy memories. Yeah. And hopefully we can do it all again in a Thought Bubble come November. Because I know there's a lot of fans and creators absolutely gagging for it.
Yeah, definitely. I've been talking to, I was talking to Tim Pilcher actually earlier on today on the phone.
Of Soaring Penguin Press, of course.
Yes, who is going to come on to the show?
Do you mean lock in, Chris?
Yeah, that's what he means.
Yeah.
Tim's going to be coming on to the show again with, I can't announce the guest yet because it's not confirmed, but he's bringing a guest with him, maybe 2 guests with him actually.
Teasing.
Yeah, that's going to be a week tomorrow. So next week we've got 2 shows. We've got Kelly Jones and then Tim and a mystery guest on the Friday.
Or mystery guests, plural, did you say?
Yeah, could be mystery guest.
Pepsi and Shirley.
Like the mystery singer, are they going to wear a giant head? Like a giant...
Tim, the guest is going to be Tim and his golden trousers. Do you remember Tim's golden trousers?
Oh, yeah, from the Marmaid King.
I tried to forget them.
Was that Ice Brighton? I think it was. I think Tim pulled those off. I was going to say. You got to be careful there. But I think he pulled it off pretty well. Actually, not many people could wear shiny golden trousers in public and still, walk home without shame. But Tim did it. So fair play to you, Tim. So we're going to have a busy one next week. Actually, yeah.
Thanks, Ed, for saying you love my videos.
He keeps bringing that up. Ed is the one person who watches Sam's video.
Well, I could share one of them now with you if you want.
I'll
take
up 8 minutes. Don't cross streams. I've always learned that.
I'll take up 8 minutes.
Yes.
So we've covered what everybody's doing now. Was there anything else that either of you guys wanted to plug or talk about?
Well, what are we reading at the moment? I mean, this is a comic book show, for God's sake.
It is.
What are we reading? What are we enjoying?
Because
this is why I got into comics. There was too many. There still is online. Too many trolls. Too many moaning. Too many complaining. And I think the beauty about what we do is I certainly pick and choose. I know it's biased, but I pick and choose comics I think I'm going to like. And when I don't like them, I feel absolutely dreadful about writing those. I'm getting used to it now, but at the end of the day, I just think there was so much negativity about 5 years ago. And this was long before the splits where sort of Comicsgate went off one end and all the good people went off the other. And I just think we're getting back to a point where a lot of people are being positive about comics again, certainly on the website, comiccon.com and other websites. It's whenever I read a review that starts off, I don't like comics, but I'm reviewing this anyway.
That's what I'm reading at the moment.
Wow. And that's a good one, isn't it?
Brilliant. Absolutely. I read Pulp when that came out. I read it straight away. But I took a little while getting around to reading this, but it's absolutely brilliant. And the art, as you would expect from Sean Phillips, the artwork. I just opened a page randomly. I haven't chosen a page, and it's brilliant. Because every page is just
it's got great stuff. Consistent as well. They've been knocking out the park for ages, haven't they?
Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, if you're watching and you've not read, a Brubaker Phillips book, whether it's Criminal or a new book like Reckless or Fatal, they're all absolutely top notch. I cannot recommend them enough. There you go. That's my recommendation for you. What about you, Ollie? Anything in particular?
Well, there's always I mean, funnily enough, a few years ago, I just stopped reading Marvel comics because I couldn't afford the amount of comics I was buying. But I've slowly found myself being dragged more and more into Marvel and less into DC. And I know DC cut down their numbers after Future State and they're building it up again. But I'm really enjoying the core X-Men title. I'm really enjoying Way of X, which is only on issue 2. And certainly Mark Russell's writing is something that I've enjoyed for a long while. And I found his Fantastic Four life stories really good. On the complete opposite side of that,
I want to read that.
Well, read my review on comiccon.com. But Ed Piscall's Red Room really left me feeling quite excited.
That was going to be my pick.
Well,
I'm trying to pick something cool.
Great minds think alike, don't they? That's it.
And I know that Mondo are currently, it might be sold out by now because it went on sale at 5 o'clock today. Mondo have got a screen print of that issue, Sam, on their site, or it was on their site. But because it's it's everything great I loved about Video Nasties.
This is hardcore. This is.
It really is hardcore. Don't show anything other than the cover. I had a real problem doing the review because I could only just show the covers.
It's that bad. Every page has got something bad on it. Oh, but
I mean, Ed Piscall's quite a sort of artist with minute detail, and I loved his hip hop family trees. I loved his sort of work on the X-Men Grand Design. Whether he'll work for Marvel again after that, I don't know. But he's really gone out on a limb with what I would call career-defining work, but also career-destroying work.
Ollie, have you seen any of his kayfabe YouTube videos?
Yes, because, I really got into them.
Well, those videos kind of inspired my style of making YouTube videos. Just reading stuff. It's
We've had a comment from Ed Doyle. He's agreeing with you, Ollie. Very true, Ollie. Too much negativity out there. A lot of work goes into creating a comic book, especially the indie scene, as these are created with love and passion for comics.
Well, I must admit, my biggest regret is when I'd moved away from work for writing for pipedream.co.uk. I wasn't able to cover as many indie books as I used to. But we do, I think, do a good job of covering a lot of Kickstarters of indie stuff. And because there's me and Rich Bruton, who cover a lot of the British stuff, I think, like Bleeding Cool as well, because Rich being a Brit himself, I think we do very well to promote the British scene, whereas maybe the bigger American websites, for different reasons, ignore them or don't need to cover them. So I'm glad that we can still be champions of the indie stuff. But Pipe Dream Comics is a great champion. And I certainly think if people aren't reading that, they should do.
Yeah, there's some good ones, isn't there, for indie stuff? What's the other big?
Well, Chris mentioned it, and that's Berserker.
Oh, everyone knows about that, don't they?
This is the foil third print. This is lovely.
It got a lot of reflection on that, mate.
It doesn't really work in the camera, but it's Dan Moyer, the guy who did one and what's the thing with Kieran Gillen and
Once and Future.
That's it. Yeah.
So is that Dan Moore a cover? Because Dan Moore is an absolute star as well, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
Cool.
And all the X-Men stuff. All the X-Men stuff is great. Way of X. I read that today. very, very good.
It is very good. Si's
I'm
a
very
really great writer.
I'm out of touch with X-Men, actually.
Yeah,
I think the great thing about X-Men is, Shane, you can read 1 or 2 titles, because I can't invest in all the titles. And because I missed out on Excalibur #1, it's one of those ones where, you know, being the nerd I am, I think I can't pick up 2 or 3. But I know that I enjoy reading them in trade paperback. But certainly Way of X is shaping up to be a really good edition.
Read House and Powers of X.
Yeah, I've got those. I've got those. Yeah, I've got those.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, because that was a revolutionary story. I think it was.
Definitely.
I mean, it was a great idea, and then it was like, okay, where will we go with this idea?
There's a dark undercurrent there, I think, that's being played out. You know, you don't have a utopia in comics for that long until something goes wrong, and the way they're acting, it's I call it friendly fascism. The way they're acting, go, well, if you do this for us, we'll give you the medicine, the cure for cancer, and just the fact that until. I mean, I don't read all of them, so Sam, you might have to correct me on this. But until Way of X, I hadn't seen Professor Xavier without his helmet on in the X-Men. And that, after almost 2 years of comics, is creepy.
No, there was they almost threw it away, because there was an issue in like a couple of issues. Well, it was an X-Men. He just suddenly took his helmet off, and it wasn't a big deal. It was like they threw it away. It wasn't you thought it was like a big moment. What's under his helmet? Because he had it on the entire house and Powers of X. But no, he just took it off, and he was just normal. It's like, you know,
he didn't have a big scar.
So that might maybe it's the helmet we should be focusing on, and not his face. Maybe there's something. You know, there's got to be a reason why he's wearing that helmet so often. And as I say, you know, the great thing about comics is it always resets, don't they? They always reset somehow, some way. Yeah.
I also like the way that they've defeated death, so they are functionally immortal, and so that, like, especially in Way of X, they've started to address it. So they, you know, it doesn't matter.
No.
I mean, the thing about it though is,
a little spoiler.
It's not a spoiler. That's established.
Yeah, that's 3 years ago. So it's.
But they're replacing themselves.
You don't know it by now.
They're replacing themselves, but they're not. It's not the original them, is it? So they're actually all copies. I mean, the original. They're gone. They're dead. Anyway. They're gone. These are just like clones, if you like.
Like second or third or fourth printings with foil covers.
Yeah. Oh, here we are with another one from Ed.
Oh yeah.
Will you all be getting the first issue of Spawn? Never. No, don't know anything about it. I haven't read Spawn for 20 years.
Well, no, I find it interesting because obviously Todd McFarlane could quite easily sit on his laurels, but he's decided, like a lot of the creators and the partners, and I think they're learning from Kirkman, if I'm honest, because of how the way he does his stuff by just dropping comics like Die and Firepower. I think that Todd McFarlane is trying to re-energize comics again by creating a whole new universe. And of course, it helps the bottom line, but it's trying to create a new buzz around comics again. And because Spawn is 30 years old, you know, good luck to him, basically. So you've got quite a few different titles. They can all be, you know, I dare say you can pick them up one at a time. King Spawn, I think, is in the August solicitations that are going to be out tomorrow. King Spawn #1. So it's something that I would look back at again, I must admit.
I mean, I admire Todd McFarlane very much, just simply for the fact that,
shrewd businessman,
of what he did, you know, in the early days of Image, and the fact that he did have periods in his career where he was basically stripped down to nothing financially. You know, he took some real hits, and he didn't admit defeat. You know, I don't know if you've seen that documentary. I mean, it's I suppose it's self-congratulating, but you know, I do admire that. I do admire his
whole part of the of Marvel Man, Miracle Man.
I
mean, ropey and
I mean, he went through the grill.
He could have the next part if it wasn't for him.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't just his fault.
I've been waiting about 25 years for that, for the next issue of.
Yeah, but it's been with Marvel for a few years, and the last time I bumped into Mark Buckingham at LF London Film and Comic Con, Sam, the year you came down, which must have been, God, I want to say 2017, but I think it's probably 2018. God, it was 2017. And Mark Buckingham seemed to think that there was something imminent. So who knows what the hiccup is now.
Well, there's a whole. I read the book, The Poison Chalice, which is the whole saga of it, and it's a twisted tale.
Yeah.
Is it? I mean, I was a big fan of Miracle Man, Marvel Man.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I bought all those old ones, you know.
The last episode of Invincible, the TV series on Amazon, that reminded me of Miracle Man.
Very much so. Yeah, it was quite violent, wasn't it?
Yes, that train scene, Invincible.
Back then, though, I mean, we watched Invincible and we take it all in our stride. Yeah, it's violent, but we're used to it now. But back when Miracle Man, you know, that was not seen in comic.
15, drawn by John Layman.
I've got it. Yeah, I've got it. I look at it sometimes and I think, even now, I think that was pretty dark stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what is full on. I think it's issue 8 where she gives birth, and I know that was a very hard issue to get hold of. I remember picking up at a Leeds comic mark when I was at university. That's how long ago it was, back in the 90s. Goodness me.
I think I got them all as they sort of I think they were just coming out. And at the time, even then, I thought, you know, well, this is something quite special. It's a bit different, you know. Yeah. We were very lucky, actually, people of our age group, to experience all that as it happened, because I know a lot of younger readers now. I hear a lot of comments, you know, saying, "Oh, yeah, Watchmen's not very good," or "Dark Knight's not very good," and you know, they're judging it by a different standard. You know, they're not experiencing it in the time. It's a bit like superb stuff. It's a bit like you know, old movies. You know, if you were around, you know, in the 60s, watching all the old 60s movies, they were revolutionary. And so many groundbreaking movies came out in the 50s.
Trying to get my kids to watch Star Wars. They're not fussed. Well, they've seen it all. They've seen it all before. Done. You know, done not better, but done, you know, in a more modern style. So they don't like Star Wars. My kids don't like Star Wars.
It's all.
I think they've actively decided to dislike it because I've told them to watch it so many times.
Yeah. What's he saying now, Chris? It will be held up like Watchmen or V for Vendetta if not held up in legal wranglings. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely. Legal wranglings have spoiled a lot of stuff for us. I remember when Spider-Man movies were sort of in legal wranglings for decades. I think James Cameron had the rights for a while and, you know, didn't do anything with it because he couldn't really do what he wanted with it. And there's other movies as well. I mean, how many have there been? I mean, the Hulk, for example, you know, for ages they've not been able to do a Hulk movie.
Universal Studios, they can't make a solo Hulk film.
Yeah, so it can really affect things, you know. But you know, it'll happen eventually. Where there's a will, there's a way. What's this one? Jason and the Argonauts, classic '60s movie. Yeah, I love those. Harry Harrison. I can't say surname. Harryhausen. Yes. Harryhausen.
It's only
I can never change those. But I love those movies. They're absolutely brilliant. So, you know, 7 Voyages of Sinbad and all that sort of stuff. Great. Clash of the Titans, even, which is a later one. But I remember going to see Clash of the Titans at the cinema with my dad. I said, "Dad, I want to see that." It was always like playing clips of it on Tiswas or whatever. And it was like they always showed the clip with the Medusa.
Yeah, because that's
that on the kids show now. That would not be on the kids show now, would it? But they used to show the clip of the Medusa, and I'd be like, "Wow, that's just so cool! Look how she moves!" And it was the way that those animated figures moved. It made them more creepy. The stop motion animation. It was absolutely amazing.
It did.
I noticed, Shane. You mentioned Tiswas there. I tried to explain to my 8-year-old son about Tiswas, and he replied, "That just sounds like child abuse." I said they used to cage them up and throw water and throw pies in them. He was concerned. He was really deeply concerned with that.
See, the kids who watch Tiswas, you know, kids like us, you know, all the little prim and proper kids, they watch Swap Shop.
Yeah.
I think that's where memory serves us badly, because I seem to remember Swap Shop being on half an hour before Tiswas, or even an hour. So I watched Swap Shop and then went over to watch Tiswas, and then back over for sort of grandstands.
Because I remember after, the wrestling,
Well, I remember sport, wasn't it? Grandstands,
BBC.
With
Dickie Davis.
Proper wrestling, not that giant, not that pantomime of pretend.
The wrestling is great.
Fat men just grappling each other.
We could have a career as wrestlers in the 80s.
Yeah, you wouldn't know if they could get up again when they fell down.
wrestling. That's all I used to watch on World of Sport was the wrestling. I didn't care about anything else. But those shows, they were great. But I remember, I'm sure I used to stay up for get up for Tiswas. And before it, there'd be stuff on BBC Two like Zorro and Champion the Wonder Horse.
It would be Open University, wouldn't it?
Yeah, remember Champion the Wonder Horse? That was awesome.
Dreadful.
I loved that.
I thought it was dreadful.
The water margin, all the Japanese.
Monkey Magic. But anyway, Swap Shop.
Oh, well, yeah.
It was still on after Tiswas finished, I seem to remember, because they used to do the big swap with Keith Chegwin.
Bit long program, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a really long program, and Keith Chegwin used to do that like swap thing with in a field. I don't know. It was all looked very dark to me. People swapping things in a field.
That's a very different program, though, Shane.
You make it sound like a car boot side with porn.
Yeah. Easy. He's on about the wrestling there, isn't he? Easy.
Yeah.
Well done. I wouldn't have got that. Well done, Shane.
Yeah, very good.
Oh dear. Anyway, this has gone straight off topic, hasn't it? We're talking about kids' TV programs now.
And hey, we'll be talking about spinner racks next. That sound really old.
Well, we know a lot of our viewers are of a certain age, so I'm sure they don't mind us reminiscing about.
Although my daughter grew up with a spinning rack, because at the school I was working at, they were throwing out an old spinning rack like a lot of libraries have, and I just pilfered it off her. And at the bottom of her bed for years and years, she had all her kiddies comics and Asterix and Lucky Luke and all of that. So she grew up with that kind of tradition, but in our household. And I know that there's a lot of demand of our generation, those of us in our 20s and 30s still, who sort of, you can buy, customized spinning racks today. So I'm always on the lookout for spinning racks at local libraries and see if they're chucking them out.
I've got a spinning rack, but I can't have it in the house. It's in the garden. It's in my shed.
I had 2 spinner racks when I used to rent space in a comic shop.
Oh, right.
And I got rid of them. I must have been crazy. I wish I had them now. Yeah. I really wish I had them because they're awesome thing. I'd have one in my house, just with like.
But you can still get them. I mean, Yorkshire Purchasing, which is the educational site, they sell these things. So they're not
on like a local selling site. I got mine for.
Yeah, you can get them still. Yeah. I mean, I think mine cost about 30 quid each or something like that. They weren't expensive. Do you know we've got more viewers now that we're just talking shit?
Oh, no, we're not talking shit. We are talking history.
That's the internet. Talking shit.
With personalities.
We don't need the guests. just if
you want, Shane, if you cared about viewers, we wouldn't be talking about comics.
No, that is true. But we do care about our viewers. We do care about our viewers. We must.
Don't care about them.
Don't want to get confused.
Once we care about them a lot. But
yes, we care a lot about.
Yeah, that sounds. Faith No More.
Yes, that should be our theme tune, but unfortunately, we don't have. We have to play our own music instead. So, guys, I don't know how we did it.
Gig I ever saw, Faith No More in Cardiff.
Was it really?
Yeah, and it was. I think. I don't know if it might. I think it was even before Mike Patton took over.
Really?
It was,
yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
can you remember who was? I dare say you can't remember who were with them, supporting them.
No, I don't think I
Nah, you stay in the pub for the support act, don't you? And then turn up for the main.
Well, I was 15, I think, or 16.
Well, I remember Faith No More supporting Guns N' Roses when they came over here on one occasion, and that's great because
they're playing again next year, Faith No More, and I know that there's something coming to Birmingham.
Still bringing out
small venues.
Yeah. Still bringing out great music as well.
Yeah.
Still doing good albums. And now we've got more viewers and they're talking about Faith No More. What's going on?
Music now.
So, for those who have just joined us, we will be talking to John Layman, hopefully in a couple of weeks. He couldn't make it this week because there was an issue with the time zone where we made an error.
Too much time in his zone and not enough time in our zone.
So, John, if you are watching, thank you for not joining us.
Look, it's John Layman cover.
That'll be the bumping viewers. We've got John and his wife are on there with all the cats.
Yeah. But we hope, John, that you are enjoying your lunch, and we will look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks or so. But we will be talking to Kelly Jones next week, and also
Not that
Tim
one.
Pilkington.
Not that one. Kelly,
the other one.
Kelly Batman Jones.
That's the man. That's
not Kelly Stereophonics Jones.
And
only allowed one Welshman on at one time, so we can't get.
Yeah, we've had a lot of Welsh guests actually, haven't we, Sam? Over the period of the series, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of talent in.
There is a concentration of talent in Wales. You know, there's
and
some
you
great
live very close to Wales as well. You live closer to Wales than I do, Shane.
That is true. Actually, I think we're about 25 minutes away from the border.
Yeah, you've got the train that goes from Wrexham to Shrewsbury. I always remember that when I was in Wrexham Art College.
I went to Wrexham Art College.
Speaking about Wrexham, I noticed I missed this one the other day because obviously everyone knows that it's been bought by two Hollywood hunks.
Yeah.
But I knew there was something fishy going on. They've turned it into a bloody behind the scenes series already, haven't they? It was being advertised for FX. I mean, I think it's absolutely bizarre that this little shitty provincial team that I used to go drinking in the turf every time I wasn't in art college have now made it onto an American network channel. They're going to be scratching their heads with that one. But I'm certainly going to watch it when it comes over to Britain. And you know, and great for a little club like that, the oldest one in Wales, and I think the fourth oldest in the world, I believe, if I remember rightly. Yeah.
Football.
It's great for the town. It's great for the town, to have that sort of notoriety. It isn't, and it will be notoriety, you know.
Yeah.
But that,
they got Deadpool as their mascot now. Then
they should have, shouldn't they?
I doubt it.
I don't think Marvel would allow that, though, would they? Yeah.
And then they're going to change the local bar to Paddy's Pub.
Oh, now you're talking. Yeah, that'd be a good idea, wouldn't it?
Oh, they should keep the original name.
What you'll have is a lot of people dressed up as Deadpool cosplay. So even though they can't officially announce Deadpool as their mascot, I did see a Deadpool in the trailer for this promo for the program.
They should have a human being. Is it a human being? What's that in? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He's just in green. Oh, I love that program. It's so good.
Nightman.
And of course, they used to be.
I am the Nightman.
Human being is community.
Yes.
Yes, we're getting our good comedies mixed up.
There used to be a comic convention just around the corner from the football ground as well. The Wrexham, well, it used to be called Wales. It was Wales Comic Con, which is now no longer in Wales, but it's still called Wales Comic Con.
It's now Telford, isn't it?
It's just up the road.
The Comic Con. The Comic Con's called Comic Con at San Diego Comic Con. That's got fuck all to do with comics as well. So
hey,
it's a
they
tradition.
still have comics at San Diego. They still have comics.
I've never been.
But they don't have many at Wrexham. But they have a couple of comic creators usually. But not many. It's a different type of show. But it's a very
there are comic conventions where I remember I saw one comic convention where the only guest they had was an actor from Emmerdale, and John's about to die.
Well, we've done quite a long show there, just talking shite, haven't we? And we've got quite a lot of viewers. Green Man.
Let's talk shite more often.
Sunny. Yeah, we'll have to do a little talking shite section at the beginning of every show from now on, I think. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to head off and get some tea. Hopefully, we'll see John in a couple of weeks.
I'm sure we will. We know where he lives, so if not,
thanks for coming and chatting. But and thanks for everyone who tuned in and and listened to us just talk shite.
Hello, Dad.
Mom, Mom and Ed. And Chris is obviously in the chat there, so he's watching. So thanks for that, guys.
Now listen, you do know that John's saying okay, ready, by the way, guys, if you want to extend this.
He isn't, is he?
He is. You just have a look at Facebook. He's ready to go if you want to join him. It's up to you, Shane. I don't mind chatting for a bit longer because I'm in a bit of a sort of nice place. But I know Sam can't do it, and you might be.
Sam probably can't do it. Are you all right to share the screen? Okay, guys. Last minute. Here we are. John Layman is going to join us.
Let's do half an hour. Are you okay for half an hour, Shane?
Yeah, I'm okay for half an hour.
Yeah. Look, I'm in good spirits. And I'd really like to talk to John, and we can always invite him back another time anyway. Make him feel guilty.
Okay. Let's see if we can get him on the show.
It'd be a nice end, wouldn't it? And it'd be a nice
Yeah.
roundup. And
Should we play?
If we've got more viewers, well, no, I wouldn't play the intro. We might lose viewers.
We might lose.
Sam's phone battery died. I didn't realise he was doing it on his phone.
Yeah, I'm going to see if I can get the link because John might have lost the link to come back.
Yeah. Well, you keep on doing that, and I'll just sit here looking pretty.
Trying to find the link. Where is it?
It's all the way up the very top, by the way.
Guys, let's. Oh, wait a minute. We've got a private chat. What's that? Oh, it's only Sam.
That's only Sam. He doesn't count.
It's only Sam. Let's do the short intro, just so we just.
Yeah.
We're not just twiddling our thumbs, then, are we?
And then we can.
He's still not here, but he is. I have sent him the link. So shortly, guys, an hour late, but still here.
No, 50 minutes late, isn't it? No,
well,
it is an hour late, yeah.
51 minutes late. That's not too bad.
And we'll just have to do quick fire questions, won't we?
Yeah. Well, at least we can share some of the art. You've got the artwork, haven't you, Ollie?
I haven't got the artwork, but what I did have up is the front cover of. So bear with me whilst I go through my history. There we go. So I've got the front cover, which is probably all we're going to be safely able to watch. And when that comes up, I'll share the screen.
Yeah. Oh, here he is. He's in the chat. I am here. I am here. But he's not here. He's not there. I can't see him.
Maybe can you copy and paste the link into the chat again?
Yeah, I've sent the chat.
Oh, yeah.
So you should be able to pick that. Here he. Oh, no, that's Sam. Sam's back.
Good.
Okay.
You got on mute, Sam, are you, bud?
I think
you might be on mute.
I'm going to try and put the link in into the private chat if I can. If I can get on.
Hold on, he won't be in the private chat. I just realised, will he? If he's not taking the link.
Well, he's in the chat. He's in the public chat.
Ah.
So he might be able to see the private chat. I'm not sure.
Are you sure
John,
he's not on the Facebook chat?
Yeah, John. If you're watching and you're not sure how to get on, if you go onto the Facebook chat that we've got, I've just sent the link to get onto the show to the Facebook chat. So if you just go onto there, John, you should be able to join us.
It's like building up suspense. If we had a drum roll.
Oh, we've got Sam back as well. So
we did have Sam back. He's on mute. You're on mute still, Spam.
But we can share some artwork hopefully then.
Well, I've got the front cover, which I know I'd posted on comiccon.com a while back, so I know we can share that. So that's up and running.
Wow.
Oh, there he was.
He's made it.
You know, I had this thing at 3, and my wife wanted to go to lunch, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have to be back until like 2:30. But I guess
we started without you, John.
Yeah, honestly, John, we have just been talking absolute shite for the last 50 minutes.
No, it's sounds
good to me.
We've put the world to rights.
We've warmed up. That's what it is, John. We've warmed up. Welcome to the Icecast, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And again, sorry to keep you waiting. I can be on as long as you want and as often as you want to make up for this.
Well,
that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, so I imagine a lot of your answers tonight, John, are going to be, I can't talk about it, I can't talk about it, I can't talk about it. But in a couple of weeks' time, I dare say you can. We have that knack of getting people on and they go, I can't talk. We had John McCree on earlier in the month and he goes, I can't talk about it, I can't talk about it.
Well, I've only got 2 things going on. I can talk about them both. I can't, like I said, I don't think we should show any of Bermuda 2. But no, talk about it, sure.
We got the issue number 1 cover that was put out by IDW a month or so ago now. So we've got that to share. And what we did share in your absence was just the very first splash page of issue number 1, the aeroplane.
Yeah. Well, solicitations for 2 just went live today. So, you can show that too.
Yeah, you were able to share that online, weren't you? And I think both those covers really do make a great showcase of Nick Bradshaw's artwork, doesn't it? Which, of course, we've been waxing lyrical about, as well as you, of course, John, in your absence. And to prove that, you can always watch us on YouTube to know that we're not lying.
Well, you can watch it back.
There's a double-page spread in every issue that just kills Nick. I'm sure it takes him about a week. And in issue 2, they venture to Pirate Town. And I mean, did you see that spread in 2?
Yes, yes.
That's stunning. Absolutely stunning. Yeah. I mean,
I have to keep my dialogue to a minimum because I don't want to cover anything.
All I can say, John, is you must have a lot of pillows in your house for when you faint from seeing the artwork. Because even on a small screen, I just had to blow it up as much as I could. Yeah. And you just don't know where to start. It's just absolutely immense. And I was saying to Shane, even the smallest little detail in someone's room, he just goes to town with it every single time.
I feel sorry for Lynn O'Grady. I mean, this guy should be getting like 10 times the rate. I mean, that poor bastard's going to have a heart attack by the time this thing's over.
But even after 2 issues, you've created a great new sort of world of, again, kooky and bizarre, the kind of characters you're known for, I think. But, to borrow sort of the cliche from Spinal Tap, turned up to 11. It's very much a John Layman comic, but with Nick's involvement as well, it's crazy.
I think it's a little more YA. I hate to say YA because in comics that sounds like the kiss of death. But I think you can read it to your kids, and it doesn't have the usual profanity and violence of.
I read Shoot to my kids.
Yeah,
it's definitely got an element of that. I mean, there's a couple of scenes where when the bodyguard gets skewered, that was quite. I mean, if that was a movie, that would probably be just over PG.
But at least in America, you can show as much blood as possible as long as you don't show a boob or say a bad word.
It's always the way, isn't it? Swearing and tits? No. Bloody gore and violence? Yeah, that's all right. I've never quite got that. But I mean, what was the genesis of the project, John? Where did it come from? Obviously your mind. But was there an influence?
LSD and magic mushrooms.
This was really different because Scott Doonbeer was my old boss at Wildstorm.
Yeah.
And he's the guy who's responsible for Cliffhanger and, all the Alan Moore ABC books. And then he moved over to IDW and brought home, 1 trillion Eisners for those artist editions and all this.
Yeah, they're beautiful, aren't they? Yeah.
And he does these kind of curated, he doesn't do a lot of comics, like floppy stuff. And he called me up and he's like, hey, man, like, I want to set you up with someone and I want you guys to do a comic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And, red carpet from a friend. And I'm like, well, yeah, sure, maybe. I mean, who are you thinking about? And then he said Nick Bradshaw. And it's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what a pairing. It's a good, I mean, in all fairness to Scott, that is a very inspired pairing because he really does bring a lot to your ideas. I mean, I do wonder what we see on the page, those visuals, all those little quirks, are they all your direction or is Nick just coming out with stuff?
Well, like the pirate, no, in this case, a lot of this is, I know what Nick can draw. So it is a vehicle for him to do his thing. And so Scott's like, you guys get to talking and tell me what you guys want to do. And we spent the first couple months coming up with like a kind of a Ronin samurai thing. And as it's coming together, IDW just picked up Usagi Ajimbo.
Yes.
And it's like, maybe this is a bad time to do another samurai book when you've got kind of the best samurai book out there. So I'm like, hey, Nick, let's go a different direction. I really want to do a Commandy type book. like a strange world where we can do anything, kind of Tarzan-y, and it just came from there. And then once we figured out the Bermuda Triangle, it's like, look, I can get dinosaurs in there, anyone who's ever washed up, who's disappeared. So you got issue 3, they come across a bunch of like a nuclear submarine that was downed in the 80s. And we've got all these crazy soldiers who have been living there, for 40 years trying to, keep military. So, the first issue is just an introduction to the world and jungles and lizards and stuff. And then there's pirates, and then there's old army men. And then by issue 4, and we only have 4 issues, you move into sort of the bad guys, which are the black magic using, fishmen, kidnappers trying to open a portal to the world. So each issue is just sort of its own little kind of snapshot of this world. And one of the really cool things, Doonbeer has just been fantastic to work with. He wanted a back cover that was almost like a Lord of the Rings map. So Nick drew this map, and we figured out the icons, and then I lettered it. And it's fantastic. But like, we've got all these little areas here that aren't in the first story arc, like Viking Village, and of course, an island like this has to have a volcano.
Of course.
So like, Nick, why he's not moving like super fast on this, but we would like to do, hopefully sales are such that we can come back with a follow-up mini.
That'd be cool.
And we've already kind of like, planted the seeds for what we're going to do next.
Great. What I like as well is that you've got all these cultures on the island that have evolved from different sort of times, like the pirates, for example, and they're keeping all their old traditions from the first ships that landed.
That was a thing I had to kind of explain because they didn't understand. They thought everyone wound up, at the same time, and it's like, no, the pirates have been living there since they went through the Bermuda Triangle 300 years ago. They haven't been exposed to our culture, so they're keeping with the old ways.
Yeah, I like that.
It's a weird mix.
Cool. I think it's spotted a couple of Nazis, because you've always got to have Nazis.
Well, like him putting those things in, and like the monkey pirate, like
monkey pirate. Yeah.
Now, when does Waldo turn up? Because at some point he's got to smuggle a little Waldo in.
You really have thrown everything on the kitchen sink at this, but is there a temptation, do you think, that to do too much? To go mad with the ideas and sort of think to yourself, I've got too much going on here.
You only have 4 issues, so I really tried to concentrate on, intro, pirates, army guys, resolution. And there's most of the things I do are 5-issue arcs. And when I got to, the end of issue 4, there was no fat on those bones. Like I wish I had a few extra pages just to, because the other thing is I give Nick a lot of 2 and 3 panel pages so we can really let things breathe. And then he paces it out, and it comes back as a 6-panel page, which on the one hand, I want the big images, but he's also such a good storyteller that everything flows.
Yeah, the storytelling is great. The action scenes just really flow. When I read it, I think it took me like 10 minutes or maybe less to read the issues. And the only reason it took that long is because I was taking in all the artwork,
Well, I think you can read it pretty fast. And then if you go in and absorb it, like it's, you can just sit.
It is nice and pacey. And like you say, because also, because the lead characters do appeal to YA, but also you've got older generational characters that would appeal to the sort of people like me and Shane. I think, call it a YA. Maybe it's the first family book out there on the market, John.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, because
when you say YA, immediately you sort of think, hey, this is a kiddie book.
Yeah,
and it's definitely not a kiddie book. But family book is a great way, because I think anyone of any age can enjoy it. If you're okay with a little bit of blood and some,
I'll work that into my review.
It's there's a lot of action and what you might call violence, but it's not gratuitous. You know, it's all about telling the story, developing the characters, and when you've got a big action story like this with a lot of movement, you've got to introduce the characters in a very sort of economical way, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, you know, my favorite thing is world building, and like I think in 4 issues you really have sort of a rich world without saying, you know, because a lot of it's just background. You know, I don't explain how a lot of the stuff has been here, but if you know if you know how the Bermuda Triangle works, you know, you're going to figure that out. Like, oh look, you know, Nazis are in the pirate bar. Why is that? Well, they're you know their ship sank, you know, or you know, got lost or whatever.
And even those Brit readers who aren't as familiar with that Bermuda Triangle, it was, you know, poring over those art pages, it was very clear I know I keep on coming back to Nazis, but I'm half German. It is very clear. And, you know, when you mention the submarine in issue 3, you know, that makes sense as well. And it seems to be one of those myths that people have kind of forgotten about. So it's a great time to bring it back again. And you certainly seem to have a great time with pirates at the moment on both this and Chew, which I'm sure we'll go on to talk about later on. But I'm still having fun talking about Bermuda.
I tend to write about the same things at the same time to get them kind of out of my system. I mean, it's weird because I finished up, you know, The Man Who Effed Up Time for After Talk, and yet I'm writing another time travel book. So I think I need to write, like, you know, 2 of the same kind of books to get it out of my
Okay. Maybe that's a particular kind of OCD you've got, John.
Yeah, and I've done it before. Like I have noticed, you know, I'm on the spot now, so I can't think about it, but I'm sure I think when I was writing Mars Attacks and Batman, there is a similar scene in there somewhere, and it just it just happens. You're working through a scene, you've got a good way to do it, and then another good way to do it. So do them both.
Can you guys see the screen I'm sharing at the moment?
No,
you guys.
Yeah. You trying to share the first issue?
Yeah, I was just trying to share some artwork, but it's not working by the sounds of it.
Well, let's let you know our viewers look for themselves if they can. I know that Sam's had to get off to say goodbye to his kids, I dare say.
The artwork went out to lunch and it's late.
Oh, here we go. Is this it?
There we go.
Go, careful. You can't show that stuff. You showed the wrong stuff there.
I think you're fair. You're
oh, yeah. Oh, cool.
This is issue 1, so we're introduced here to the lead characters, aren't we? We've got,
and you know, Bobby is us. You know, he's the POV. You know, he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to survive, and you know, Bermuda grew up here, so you know she's used to giant spiders and pirates, and you know, all this is kind of old hat to her. Yeah,
there she is, star of the show. And I was amazed actually how you managed to tell all of that. You know, you managed to get all of that across really quickly with your world building, with your dialogue and the action. There was very little sort of exposition, and I love that. I love the way it just flows.
And you got to keep the exposition to a minimum because you don't want to cover that art. You know,
no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it really is. I mean, these aren't as detailed as some of the other pages. I mean,
don't go too much further.
No. I mean,
I'm gonna stop there because there's plot.
Well, that gives you a good picture of the giant lizards, doesn't it? That gives people more than a great taster. For the main course when it comes out in July, I believe. I know the is it July the first issue, John? Because I know the second issue is August.
I've got 2 books this year, only 2, and they're both coming out on the same day, which I arranged. So John Layman Day is July 25th.
Excellent.
That should definitely be a day. I like that. John Layman
the thing
Day.
about Image is you have total control of stuff. So when IDW said it was coming out this week, I'm like, oh, let's bump Chew a week, and maybe, you know, if the world gets safe again, which it's gotten a lot better around here, I can do a signing. You know, I can do a signing someday and sign, you know, somewhere and sign both books.
That'd be great. That'd be really good. We'll have to have you over here back to the UK again at some time, John.
Well, you know, I was supposed to. Now, do you guys know Dan?
Yes, from the Comic Cons, the MCMs as well, and I believe that's where you met him, didn't you? When you were over in here for in the Manchester one, or
I was at Manchester, and John Scalides. Do you know him? He's the guy who runs the UK Read Pop shows.
No, not met him.
Don't know him, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
We were talking, and I basically had an open call out for artists, and I was asking all my friends, and it's weird who gets recommended to you, because to me that says this is what they think Chew is.
Right.
Because some people were just off. It's like, no, this person is not the right person. But John said, check out this guy, and this guy. And Dan was the guy. And I approached him, and I just, look, I love your stuff. Will you do a couple test pages? And then he turned in his test page, and he added a panel. Like, that's a ballsy freaking thing to not follow the script on a test page. And it worked, and it improved the page. And then he's got this great, design sense. And he was he was really worried about design going in. Like, he was, sending me designs and all this. And it's like, look, I'll tell you when a character is important. Otherwise, just have fun. Hey, this is a big Rasta dude. Hey, this is a pretty blonde. Hey, this is whatever you want it to be. And his designs, don't think about it, just have fun. And they've just been getting better and better. And like, Olly, you saw 7 today. I think you are the first non-comics person to see 7.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm very privileged because I enjoyed it.
It's great. I had to look at it myself.
And I like that Saffron has a certain habit, shall we say, in both issues. To deal with people.
She's been kind of more fun to write than Tony. Tony was like Seinfeld, where he was the straight man in a crazy world. Yeah. And so he was always kind of the anchor, where she's just more fun and more crazy. I didn't mean to switch from Bermuda if we were still talking about Bermuda.
No, that's cool,
it's a good segue.
The way we do
I like
it,
the style.
Yeah, it's the way we do it on Ice. We just talk about what we want to talk about.
Cool.
What's interesting, when you talk about Dan's artwork, you go from something that's ultra detailed to something that's got a great style, a great economy of line.
Yeah.
But it really, particularly in issue 2, when they're in a particular city, it really seems, even with all the Star Wars references, it really seems to fit the bill. It reminds me of some of the more classic political cartoonists that I forget the name, like they used to run in the Sunday Times and the Times, that, just a couple of swishes and suddenly you recognize who that character is. And for him to be able to maintain that over not just the first set of issues, but issues 6 and 7, there's a certain skill involved with that, I must admit.
I think, and this was always the plan was to, I spin it out of Chew in the first arc, but with this new arc, you should really be able to sort of see that it's its own thing. I'm not relying on Chew, definitely. And it like, this is more like what the book is going to be.
And he's really finding his stride, isn't he? Dan's really sort of getting even more economical with the lines. It reminds me a little bit of Kyle Baker, actually, when he went really, that's and really, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Kyle Baker, but it's got that sort of economy, and it's got that sort of storytelling as well, that really sort of fast and economical storytelling that I really love. It's
weird because I would describe Rob Guillory as more cartoony and Dan as more animated.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's an element of that, isn't there? The animation influence.
Yeah, but I don't think, if you're a big Chew fan and you read Chew, I don't think you're going to be offended. I don't think you're going to be like this is too big of an art switch. It's sort of the same in, at its core, kind of goofiness, but it's still, each artist gets to be uniquely themselves. They're not, Dan's not being asked to draw like Rob.
No, that would be a mistake, wouldn't it? I mean, because it would just dilute what he's doing. I mean, what you're doing now, you're going in a bold new direction, and
definitely with issue, the cliffhanger to issue 2 is like, what, really? That's how it is.
That was the thing, because I was trying out other artists, and a few people, tried to do their Rob Guillory impression. And like, I don't want that. I don't want people thinking how good a Rob Guillory are you going to be. I want you to, step out and, stand in the spotlight yourself.
Was it always there, the idea of carrying on in that world?
No,
when Chew
no.
finished? No.
Well, there is a Chew 2 with Olive set in the future, but then Rob got busy. And, Rob got busy with Farmhand, and Farmhand was getting a TV show.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it. But again, I didn't want the whole book to be Rob's absence. So I needed to come up with a new way to continue it. And for the longest time, it was just going to be his sister Sage. And Sage and Saffron have very similar powers. But she was, in her limited time in Chew, she was always kind of the good girl. And then it's like, what do I retcon it where she was actually kind of bad? And then it just made more sense. Like, Tony's got his twin in, Tony with an I, Antonelle.
Yeah.
Why not give good girl Sage a bad girl sister, Saffron? And then I can, she was in prison. She's the black sheep. No one wants to talk about it. And
so good.
And it's funny because I have the third arc figured out, but I also have these like weird kind of one-shot stories. And I've got this one thing that I'm thinking about doing before the third arc that takes an issue of Chew and really sort of tells you what was going on behind the scenes with Saffron. And it adds some dimension to original Chew characters that doesn't negate anything in the first book. But like it would, like I said, it was a very Rashomon thing. Here's what happened to this issue of Chew. Here's what was going on here's what the criminal sister was doing behind the scenes to make it happen. And
I like it.
I even thought it would be funny to do it like as a flip book where I like show that issue and then, and even maybe have Rob come in and like do a couple extra pages, like a director's cut remaster.
That'd be cool.
And then do our kind of flip side, and it would be like a really, weird kind of crossover.
That's got to happen. Now you said it, John. I mean,
but that being said, the third arc of Chew is a very meta, very in-jokey heist where she is stealing a very valuable comic book from a comic book convention.
All right.
So I'm
going to know about that one.
I'm going to get all my friends in there, and like I said, just in joke after in joke after in joke.
Brilliant. Guest appearances from artists and writers.
Oh yeah, I can't say more than this, but yeah.
Will there be a key guide at the back of the book like they do, where you point out who's who? That'd be quite nice.
Well, everybody I know in the last 25 years, I finally hit them up for a favor.
Excellent, brilliant, and you've got to have some grotesque deaths in there as well, John. Some people have got to die horribly. That would be cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean that. Neither Chew has ever shied away from grossness, so
that's true.
I mean, that's something I always enjoyed about it was the fact that it was so. It was so brave in that respect. There would never seem to be any limits on it, especially the Puyo specials.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, they were incredibly violent.
That's one of the reasons I wanted an artist like Dan or an artist like Rob, because, like, if it was like a Vertigo-y type artist, it could be a really ugly book. And I want you to, I want you to have, I want you to be giggling when you're seeing the gross stuff, not repelled. And I think ultimately that's helped make Chew more accessible. You show it to your kind of other than being repelled by it.
Oh, you're breaking up a bit there, John, or is that just me, Shane?
I lost you guys for a second. You guys
don't worry. I think you're coming back on again.
You're coming back now. But that's what I always loved about it as well, was the fact that when you did all this like humorous violence, if you like, but then there would be a moment where something real happened that really affected the character emotionally, and you felt that, you cut through all that comedy, all that sort of irreverence, if you like, with real emotion, real feeling. We lost you. I was really into that question as well.
You were, so you write it down once you remember it anyway.
Well, I think we lost John.
Yeah,
There we go.
I heard what you were saying, Shane. Like where it was
Cool.
you know, it would get serious here and there.
Mm.
Yeah, you know, I didn't want it to be completely frivolous, and you know, like one thing I was really proud of. My favorite arc is the halfway point where the sister dies, and it's this really fun, happy thing for 4 issues, and everyone's like, "Well, Chew's getting too light, you know, Chew's getting too silly," and it's like, "Oh no, I'm lulling you into a sense of false security," and I'm
very much so.
I think the successful arcs of the entire run.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think
we're having a little bit of. Yeah,
there's a bit of a lag, but I'm sure we're doing okay. It must be quite fun then, John, sort of playing with the sort of emotions of fans, like you've just said, where you steer them one way to get a certain reaction out of them, only to sort of like hit them in the face with something quite dramatic and quite exciting.
Well, and another one where that worked was when we killed Poyo, and had just once an arc, and then they were once an issue, and there was a point where like, well, you know what, these Poyo spreads are getting a little bit old. They should do something with Poyo, and I'm just thinking, yeah, just you wait. So yeah, it's fun to like when you know what's happening behind the scenes.
Well, you certainly caught me out with the Out of Darkness and sort of the Tube crossover when it was revealed that these characters weren't exactly what you thought they were, I must admit. So I suppose that comes from years of sort of honing your talent as a writer on other books, and when you come ready to sort of create your own, you've got all these tricks, have you, I suppose, both as being a fan of comics as well and knowing how they work.
You hope. I mean, ideally, I don't want to give myself that much credit. Sometimes I just get lucky. But I've been in comics a long time, and as an editor, I was an editor, and then I tend to read things very critically. If they work, I kind of like what made this work and how, and really sort of take it apart and look at the mechanics. And it's weird because I'm not very good about talking about my process. I just know when something's wrong, and if something feels good, I walk away and I move on. Don't even give it a second thought. You're never going to have the perfect comic, but if there's something wrong, I will rewrite it and rewrite it and rewrite it until it finally feels right.
And it's instinctual, I guess, isn't it? After a while, I mean, I've spoke to a lot of writers who said the same thing. It's like, I can't put my finger on exactly what it is that works or doesn't work, but I know when it does and when it doesn't.
Well, some people, I guess some people are a little more cerebral than I. Like, you look at Scott Snyder, and he's an actual teacher, so he can actually talk about his process. And I, when people ask me to like analyze what I'm doing, I have no idea. I just know when it's right and know when it's wrong.
I think you're not the only one. So, I did have another question. It's just gone out of my head. Do you have a question, Ollie? While I'm thinking of my question.
So, I mean, I'm still thinking about maybe how was that? Did you find yourself, whether on Bermuda or the second story arc of Chew, did you find yourself in those positions where I thought, that doesn't work, I've got to rewrite it, particularly when maybe you're used to doing 5 issues and suddenly you've got to 4?
Part of it, I mean, pandemic's been rough because I get fuel from going to cons and talking to pros and all this, and I've been locked in a room for 14 months, and scripts are taking twice as long, and there's twice as many rewrites, and like Bermuda 4 was rewritten a lot before it was. And again, I'm not used to writing a 4-issue thing.
Yeah.
So I had the end, and it's like you have to get all these moments, and even now I wish I would have had 2 more pages. And I'm like, Nick, I'm so sorry. The end is a little bit rushed, but I feel like everyone gets their moment and gets their arc and gets their beat. But man, even if I had just a couple more pages to give it a little more resonance, but you can't, like, by issue 4, I guess if issues 1 and 2 do so gangbusters, then I can knock on Dunebeer's door and be like, look, do we have the money for these extra pages? But you gotta consider the budget. And so yeah, and let's see, like I think Chew 7 had I have been rewriting more than usual lately, just because writing's been harder.
Yeah.
I've spoken to a few writers who've said that as well, that the isolation has been difficult. Yeah, because you get a lot of inspiration from everyday life, don't you? Just from moments with people.
Yeah, and I tend to get a lot of story ideas from travel, and you meet people from all walks of life, and you just don't get it. Even though the internet is limitless, you just don't get it from screwing around on Twitter or whatever websites you go to. So
certainly on your social media, you really do enjoy your travel. You really do, go and look at, again, starting to get to know you when you're in Manchester, going off on the Friday to go and look at Liverpool and that kind of thing. You're one of these people who are going to go out and explore, where I know a lot of artists, particularly when they come to the MCMs in Birmingham, they're shipped in by plane to the airport. They're at the sort of hotel. They barely get into Birmingham. And then before you know it, Monday, they're back on the plane again. Yeah. Well, and of course, you manage to slip your anglers, don't you?
Then they complain about how miserable cons are. And it's like, you're doing it wrong if you're just doing it for the money. I mean, money is good. It's better for artists than writers. And meeting fans is great. But, like, you're experiencing something that, 19 people out of 20 don't get to, take advantage of that. And especially, if you're writing a food comic, like, you wouldn't believe how good travel is for a food
check
comic.
out the cuisine. There's some good cuisine in Birmingham, actually, I have to say.
Yeah, I must admit, John, every time I read your books, I always look up every character, because I always think, he's going to name this after food. And you invariably have done, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, with the new book, it helps because every arc's going to be in a different country.
Right.
So, there's only so many American English names for food, but you get into France, I've got a whole new dictionary of food of names and stuff.
Actually, quite a few of the guys who visit Birmingham to come to our show, they take advantage of that as a stop off and then go over to Paris or somewhere else in France. The amount of guests that have done that, because it's why not? We pay the bill. We pay the bill here. It's only
like Olly has said. I'll go to a show and then I'll tell the organizer, book me for a couple days extra. I'll pay that on my own dime. But if I'm coming this far, I want to see the sights. I want to experience things.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Experience the places you go to. I couldn't imagine going to, another country for 2 days or 3 days and only seeing the inside of a convention hall.
A lot of pros do that. A lot of pros just see it as like, oh, I can't afford this. I've got a deadline. I can't afford this extra day or two. And it's like, trust me, what you're going to get out of that extra day or two is worth any, page rate.
Definitely. Life experience.
One of my favourite memories, and this is thanks to Shane and his ice shows, is taking John Tyler Christopher around, because he had his whole family with him. And because my daughter was a similar age, I took him all around Birmingham. We've got a magnificent free art museum with huge pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood paintings in there. The largest watercolour in Europe is there. But,
oh, wow.
And every now and again, when we touch base online, he always remembers that time. And I think travel, it's about memories. It's about forging memories. It's about going maybe down that alley that no one else has gone by and discovering something new. And like you say, if you're into food, that's something Britain does. And America as well. The big melting pot in America, we have the same thing here. We have the Curry Mile in Birmingham, which is quite famous. And even on that road, you've got so much different variety. It's a city that doesn't get a lot of good press, but it should do a lot more. I must say, and hopefully one day, whether through Shane or through MCM, you'll get to Birmingham one day, John. Have you ever? Because obviously John McRae lives here, and half of the greatest artists and writers in the world seem to live in Birmingham.
I have been to London, Bristol, Liverpool, and Manchester, and I think that's pretty much my UK experience.
That's pretty good because you've south and north.
Bristol's a lovely city.
And Bristol's one of my favourite cities in the country, actually.
Well, Bristol was my first overseas con, and that was as an editor, and that was one that I did wrong. That was the get there, do the show, and leave. And now I know better. And another thing is, nothing against the fans or the experience, but cons, no matter where you are, they kind of blend in. You meet some great people and you have a good time, but they are all kind of the same. And it doesn't matter if you're in Africa or India or England or America. You're in a line, you're talking about your books, you're meeting, great fans, but they all kind of blend together. But it's the days where you go out to a meal or go on a little, day trip that you really get the impression of the place.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what we try and do, isn't it, Ollie? With Ice and Comics
Definitely.
So going back to Bermuda, the character herself, is she based on somebody?
No. I don't have a lot of design notes. And, I basically said, hey, she is Tarzan. She is Commandy. Yeah. Let's make a girl. We don't want this to be like a sex thing. We don't want her to be a hot chick. So because we want a different kind of readership than the guys who are just looking for TNA.
Yeah,
and I just kind of left that for Nick. A lot of the design stuff. I said, this is the kind of girl we're looking for, and he did a couple designs, and it's like, hey, that's it. So, but the great, most of the visuals are Nick. I give very little direction in that. I'm all about the story and the arc and the place.
Let the artists do their job, as it were.
But again, getting back to Nick's, Commandy, basically rip pants and that's it. Here, this sort of buccaneering kind of spirit you see. Again, Nick doesn't make it easy on himself, does he? Because again, that is quite attention to detail. Costumes she's got on there.
That was the other thing. Like, she had a lizard mount. She rides a giant lizard, but I'm like, Nick, it's whatever you want to draw. Is it a Komodo dragon? Is it a chameleon? Is it a monitor lizard? Like, I don't care. And it doesn't matter from the story purposes. So, draw what you think is cool. And, a lot of my scripts say that, they tell the artist, look, I'm writing a 3-panel page, but, if you want to do it in 4 or 5 or 2, everything I do is a suggestion, and you've got veto power as the artist. And if you can make it cooler, do it. And here's what I imagine this character or this thing. But if you can make it cooler, veto it. Veto it and make it better. And it seems to work because I'm not tying the hands of any artist. I'm giving them, reign to do whatever the hell they want, which is where you're going to get the best art.
Definitely. Totally agree.
And is that the writer and the editor in you thinking that way, do you think, John?
Yeah. So this is a gross exaggeration, and I'm not saying names. But when I was an editor, there was a kind of a newish writer, and newish writers tend to overwrite. And like an artist gave him back pages, and he's like, well, this guy is very cerebral, and I see him as more of a right brain guy than a left brain guy. So maybe he should wear his watch on the other arm. And I'm like, do you really want to bring this back to an artist and have him change this for something that no reader on earth is going to notice? And all you're going to do is dispirit your artist? Like that is the stupidest sort of note. And really, sometimes you get something you don't like from an artist, and you think, do I ask for a change? And then what I always say is, will a reader notice? Will it affect their enjoyment of the book? You know, if no one's going to notice, okay, you didn't get what you want, you know, boo-hoo, you got it on 19 other pages. It's a collaboration. And so you really sort of learn, and I think that's experience. I think that's being on both sides of the fence, but you know, comics are a give and take, and you know, you're not God, you're co-God, and you know, don't try to, you know, dominate your artist.
That's good advice, I would say. And would you say that being an editor then is the ultimate training ground to being a writer?
Oh, good question.
Well, it was for me. I don't know if it works for everybody, but I tend to, like, when I do work with an editor, like, you know, I don't do a lot of DC or Marvel work, but I tend to sort of know, when I do, I know what they're going through. And even if they're doing something I don't like or agree with, I sort of like understand why, and you can't fight it, and you know, why fight it? So you know, I try to, you know, but you know, if you have something worth fighting for, I'm not saying roll over on everything, but really
pick
you
your
know,
fight.
Pick your battles, and kind of put yourself in their shoes. And there are some editors who just make changes to sort of put their, you know, to mark their territory. And those aren't the people you want to work with. But then you know, most editors are just trying to, you know, do their best for the book and kind of appease their corporate masters. And you got to realize, you know, these guys aren't purposely being the bad guy, you know.
No. You're just trying
to got to justify their wages somehow, haven't they?
You're in the middle as well, aren't you, as an editor sometimes? Because obviously you want to get the best out of your creative people, but you also want to please those above you if you are in a corporate situation. You know, it's not like, you know, indie publishing where it's just you and your mates. It's you have got lots of people.
That's the fantastic thing about having an image book, because you know, I can literally do whatever I want, and so that's my place for it. You know?
God, then
you know, you're making me write Batman this way. Okay, well, I'm going to do Chew that whatever way I want. You know, that's fine.
Yeah. And when you came up with the character of Chew, Tony Chew, back in the day, did you have any inkling that it was going to be the massive hit that it was?
Nobody did. Nobody. Like, I hired Rob for 5 issues, and I thought what would happen was I would make my money back, because I fronted money out of my pocket, and I thought it's going to take me a couple of years to pay myself back, and then I'll save up money and do another 5 issues with another 5 artists, and maybe over 10 years, you know, I'll be able to tell the whole story, you know, in 25 issues. And nobody had any idea. And I can remember they announced it at WonderCon, either Berkeley or San Francisco, somewhere in the Bay Area. And Image, nobody thought Chew was going to be anything. And they had this other book. They're like, oh, here's this great book. This is going to be the next big thing, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. And here's Chew. And
thanks, guys.
The other book came and went, and then Chew was just a, you know, shocking hit.
I think do you know what? I think it's down to those letters pages, you know.
Well,
those cat pictures.
Something that has occurred to me since, but not while I was pitching it, is sort of the universality of food, because you know, it does not matter what culture you're from, or you know, what your background is. And I mean, Chew has done really well around the world. You know, it does not matter if you are human. You can relate to a good meal or a bad meal or a disgusting meal or food poisoning or being hungry. Like, it is universal to the human experience. And I can say this now from like 2020 hindsight, but like when I was pitching it, you know, I didn't know to say that. But now when I'm like, what makes Chew work? That's part of it.
It's definitely unique. I mean, the whole idea of how do you pronounce it? Is it Seabapath?
It's either. There's no right answer.
That makes me feel better.
I used to change it between people just to screw with them. I tell one person it's Seabapath and another person.
That's cruel. But yeah, it's such an original idea, and you're right. It is.
Yeah.
It's universal. I mean, I remember the guy in my local comic shop just suggested it to me because he knows the sort of stuff I like, and he said, "There's this new book. It's called Chew. It's about a guy who, what he eats, he experiences, the history of the food." And I was like, I have never heard that before.
Yeah,
I am getting that, and I got it from issue 1. Just because on the concept, and then obviously, as I started reading it, I was hooked. But yeah, you're totally right. It is completely unique. It is totally universal, and I suppose it's hard, isn't it, to then when you move on to another story, it's like how can you can't capture that same thing again.
Like Saffron in the new book, her power isn't quite so hooky. It's harder to explain, and it's not. Yeah. It doesn't grab you in the same way. And so I've made it a little less power focused, and a lot of like the first arc is really just her origin.
Yeah.
She goes into prison and becomes a super criminal because she's absorbed, all this stuff, and you really see it in the next issue because it's sort of like, oh, she sat next to this woman who spoke French, and now she speaks French. She had a cigarette in the weight room, 3 times a week while with this French woman. Now she speaks French, and it sort of tells you how she's got all these like things that help her in her criminal, because of her time in prison.
She's picked up a lot of skills, hasn't she?
Yeah.
A lot of skills. As she says herself.
You see it in this next arc, like especially issue 7, where suddenly she's like being like a cat burglar and all this stuff. Like she's Tony was a little more reactive, and she's a little more proactive as characters go.
Will she ever learn to have good taste in men?
Not for a few arcs.
Fair enough. I love the fact everyone tells her he's a loser. We can see it, and she can't.
But how many times have you seen that in real life?
I was just going to say that. That is such a good observation. Yeah, that happens all the time, doesn't it? And I think a lot of people, you're talking about relating to things, like you're relating to food. I think a lot of people will relate to that aspect.
Yeah, I just a couple weeks ago, some Southern California library group did a thing about Chew, and it was a lot of women, and they all came back and they hated the Eddie character, and I'm like,
it's working then. It's the character's doing his job.
Yeah, I mean that's a slow boil that's absolutely going to be dealt with. But the fact that somehow people don't think that I realize that,
how much of that design is Dan's, because he comes across as a very typical kind of British cad, like a Terry Thomas kind of character from the 60s with his sort of like little pencil. Or was that your writing? I'd make him look like a cad.
No, that again, I told Dan the type of person he was, and didn't give design notes, he came up, I said that he had a vaguely kind of used car salesman kind of vibe, oiliness about him, and he came up with that, and I guess I sort of pictured him as better looking at first, and then what Dan gave me I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, he's certainly batting above his weight, isn't he? On all levels.
These guys, they never are good looking. These guys, though, are they? That these women, they tend to be a little bit off the rails, and it's such a great observation. And Dan has really put himself into it. I mean, no other artist could have done it the way that Dan does it.
Well, it's fantastic because Rob really likes Dan. Like, I didn't know who Dan was. I'm looking for all these artists, and then he gets recommended. And I don't want to get an artist without Rob's blessing at least. And I'm like, I'm talking to this person, and Dan Boltwood. He's like, oh, Dan's really good. And
nice.
I'll send stuff to Rob, because Rob was doing some variant covers, and he loves Dan's stuff. So that's nice.
Win-win. Yeah. Lovely.
Definitely. Well, I think we've taken enough of your time this evening, John.
I came in late, and you guys had to do.
We've done well. We've done a good 45 minutes or so, and I feel like we've only just touched the iceberg. So we definitely should be getting you back on again. Closest when Bermuda's out.
I'm here for another half hour or so if you want to go.
Oh wow!
I think Shane, unfortunately, you've got to have something to eat, haven't you, Shane?
Well, you know, I am diabetic, so I do have to be careful with the old not having my tea. But
Well, I'm happy to come back too. So,
it'd be lovely to.
Well, the thing is, John, I was saying to Shane, because my daughter, I don't know, I can't even remember how I passed my daughter at the age of 12 the first sort of trade of chew, and and pardon for the pun, but she devoured it, and she read all of the trades. It's the one comic she keeps on coming back to. Unfortunately, she's doing some sort of thing tonight, and it would be great when you do come back, because I'm sure she'd, if I could talk her into it, would love to ask you a couple of questions herself, because I don't think she even knows I'm interviewing you tonight, and I think she'd be quite upset if she found out I had without it. No, not Neve, no, because obviously we've never. The nearest I nearly got to meeting you in public is, but because I didn't know you that well, I was quite tempted to go up to Manchester, because it's not far from Birmingham.
Okay, I was trying to figure out, did we meet at Manchester?
We didn't, I'm afraid. I was because we'd only just started communicating. I didn't want to come across as a stalker, but because Manchester's my old sort of stomping ground, I always, like I did with John Tyler Christopher, I always like to think, if anyone's going to get the most out of a city like Manchester, you need someone who can guide you to all the good pubs, basically. So I'm sure there'll come a time as the world opens up again, and when you're invited back to Britain, John, that our paths will cross.
What I was going to say way back was I was supposed to go to MCM London.
I remember you saying,
to meet Dan and to like kind of kick off our trade, and then then the world shut down. So the first invitation I get, I will be there.
I know you will. Excellent.
Well, I think we need to get that invitation in, don't we, Ollie?
So when is Birmingham this year?
So Birmingham's November. The great thing about Birmingham, like London, they actually have 2 shows. And I know that they're already promoting their November one. So they entered the first one of the year and the last one of the year. And it's only about a 10-minute train journey from the city centre of Birmingham.
Isn't Thought Bubble in November as well?
That's like about a week later. Yeah,
that's in Harrogate.
I want to say the 22nd, 23rd, because I know I've booked. Fingers crossed, my hotel for that one. That's a great one.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. It's
a great show. It's a good show. It's
sometimes harder to get there as a writer, because artists make more money, and they'll be like, well, you fly out here on your own dime, we'll give you a table, and it's like, look, I'm a writer, I sell $10 books. I'm not doing commissions. Like, I don't need to get rich, but I'm not going in the hole. So Thought Bubble. They've been generous to offer me tables and stuff, but like, I'm not going to fly there on my own dime to sell $10 books.
We pay for your flight when you come to the ice, so there's no worries there. We wouldn't expect you to fly out on your own dime. So
and you do ice around about September time in Birmingham.
We do a show. It won't be this year.
Next year, of course. Yeah,
it'll be next year. So,
but you guys aren't MCM, right? That's a separate show, right?
Okay. Oh, that's totally different. Yeah, I mean, ice is its own.
MCM was the huge one. What was interesting is in Birmingham they had a show called Memorabilia, and again it was very much old TV start, and so the MCM brand grew out of that. And what I found interesting is when Reed Pop first brought it over, the first person they flew out was David Finch. But I think they haven't. They seem to put the spotlight on the London shows, and they haven't quite got the Birmingham shows correct yet.
Well, you figure London's where most of the money's at, and that's
that's the reality.
Reed Pop is a big company, but I've done 3 India shows, and I did an India show pre-Reed Pop, and India is a very interesting place. It is. I've
been to Goa a few times, and it is a very interesting place. But again, one that you can explore if you know the right people to talk to.
But once Reed Pop took over, it got a lot more organized. So a place like India almost needs a thing like Reed Pop. But are shows starting again in the UK?
Yeah, with Thought Bubble, I think is going to be the first one. We were talking about it earlier, actually, when before you came on, and I think Thought Bubble will be the first major show this November.
How's vaccinations going over there?
This
Really
is the
well.
issue.
Really
Because
good.
it's good, but we've got a new variant coming in called the India, because it's come from India.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our government was a bit too slow to shut down the border by 3 whole weeks. And because certainly in Birmingham, we've got a large Asian population. And I was talking to the kids I teach, and over Eid, which they've just had, a lot of these kids were families, were moving around the country to visit friend and family. So my fear is we might get another spike. And although November seems a long way away, we seem to be making the same mistakes every few months, not shutting down the airports quick enough. And so we have this rise. But I think about a third of the population have been vaccinated. But we've still got, I've had my first jab. I'm going to get my second jab shortly. But I think the big problem is still in the disenfranchised working class communities, as it is in America. There's a big push against vaccine for all the same stupid reasons. You know, you don't have to be a Trump supporter to be dumb, but it helps, I suppose. and in these Asian communities and certainly the Afro-Caribbean communities, because there is a big distrust of the government for all the right reasons, I can understand why you wouldn't trust the government now when they're saying, look, have this. So it's going to be rocky. We've just had the pubs opening up, but the fear is that they'll shut down again. So it really is playing it by ear. I've got a graffiti festival I put on, but I mean, we can do that outdoors as graffiti is. So I'm hoping that goes ahead in September, and I'm still got fingers crossed for November, John, but I think it's going to be play it day by day, really.
It all depends how the vaccine performs, really, because if the vaccine performs well against the Indian variant, then it won't be an issue. But it's unknown at the moment, and anyone who says they know is just not being honest, really. Nobody knows.
I got my second, and now I'm fully vaccinated, and I've got a neighborhood bar, and when I'm close to the end of a script, I'll get 4 pages done in a day, and then now I can go to my favorite bar and be like, they know because I bring my laptop and I'm typing, and they're like, "Yeah, you're working." And it's like, if I can just get these 2 more pages, while I drink a few pints.
So is it opened up quite a lot where you are, John? Then
what's that?
Has it opened up quite a bit then over where you are, John?
Well, Arizona's a lot like the Wild West, and we've got a lot of people that never shut down to begin with. I mean, we were for a while one of the worst places in the world, but it's helped that we have a competent president now, because things totally changed. And I've got a 14-year-old, and he's getting his first on Sunday.
Whoa, they did. We haven't done that yet. We're on 30-year-olds, but we're not going down to the kids yet. That's amazing.
So it's 12 on up, and they just opened it up. But we're going to take a family vacation in July, and my wife's been really worried about it. And now it's like, the kid's going to be fully vaccinated. Like, this is fantastic.
That is brilliant. I mean, I mean, in this country, what's happened is all the vulnerable people are vaccinated now. So if you're over, I think if you're over 40, pretty much everyone is vaccinated.
Ollie, you're muted. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, I think he's talking to.
Well, you know what?
I'm muted because my daughter's just come through the door. You see? Just say hello to John very quickly. Look at.
Hi. Thanks for reading too.
I just wanted you to say hello to John because you look.
How cool is she? She's like, hello. She's not starstruck. She's not,
Yeah, she's at that age now. Your son in another year, John, will be like her. Trust me.
I do think this is a double edged, because you've got enough people in the U.S. that don't want to do it, that now it's available for kids. So okay.
And is it free? Because I know in America you have to pay for everything. But have they rolled it out for free like they have? Because obviously, that is good. That is good.
You make an appointment now. You walk into your corner drugstore and they take care of it.
What, really?
Oh, right. You don't go to the doctor. Wow.
That is good.
I did it a month or so ago, and it was still in the early days. And I actually had to volunteer at a drive-up site where I was, taking information, and at the end of the day, you got your shot. But in the last 45 days, it's completely opened up everywhere to everybody. So that's great.
Well, hopefully things will go as planned, and we'll be able to have you over in the new sometime. Next year, hopefully.
And we certainly feel a competent presidency over here in Britain as well, even though we're miles away. We've raised a cheer for all of America as well.
It's.
Have you really noticed the difference?
You don't have to turn on the news and wonder what the daily outrage is, or what the daily lunacy is.
Although we've got Boris Johnson, who's a mini Trump, so we've got to get rid of him. Yeah. Suddenly we look like the idiots.
Well, but I also feel like America's sort of propped up idiots everywhere, and maybe knocking down a big idiot gets rid of more idiots. So hopefully it's the beginning of something everywhere.
Let's hope, yeah.
Let's hope so.
Hey, Olly, I wanted to just thank you for all the great coverage you've given my books over the years.
Look, I was just saying to Shane beforehand, I got into writing about comics because a lot of trolls online. I'm going back 5 years, long before Comic-Gate and all those idiots. But I'm glad, I've got a mini career out of it now. I still have to do the teaching. But, you send over things like you've done, and it immediately, honestly, after the day I'd had at work, it really gave me another zest for life again, John. So I mean it from the heart every time I write about it. And, it's a shame that, the certain book that I love the most might not be coming back. I still hold out hope for Out of Darkness coming back. But, it is what it is. But hey, Bermuda and sort of Chin, watch this space for more reviews, mate.
Have you ever read my Mars Attacks with John McCrae?
I haven't, but Sam had, you see. Okay. So I do need to sort of get, especially with John McCrae living so local. Yeah. That's another reason we need to get you into Birmingham.
John has been my friend for years, and I love him, and I would love his art even if I wasn't his friend, and the fact that I love his art and we're friends. And then, I really liked Mars Attacks, and I went to IDW when they announced the license, and I'm like, I have to write this. And they're like, well, you okay with working with John McCrae? And so, brilliant. Those 10 issues were one of the funnest things in my career. I mean, they are a blast. So, I recommend it.
It is another great matchup. You and John is just... It's perfect, the sensibilities
and the sense of humor as well.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have traveled. I've done a lot of international shows, and I think I have been in more countries with John McCrae than anybody else. We've been in England, Ireland, Germany, America, and Canada together.
Wow.
That's a good travel.
You'll get a free coffee for the next time.
Well, John's a regular at Ice, isn't he, Ollie? So if you come to Ice, we'll
he's fantastic. John. Yeah. Just a great artist. I love his commissions he does on colored paper. He'll do a Hulk on green paper or Deadpool on blue or red paper, and it just I don't know anyone else who does that.
By sheer coincidence, because my daughter, I'm sure your son's the same, she grew up on comic conventions, and when she was very, very young, I did get a Spider-Man John McCrae that's still in her room now, and again, it's on red paper. He's done it in sort of a marker and chalk, and 10 years later, it's still on her wall. So he's a consummate professional. I love his new Star Wars variant he's done for the bounty.
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome, wasn't it?
Good.
Yeah, I feel like a bit of a kiss ass because I go to his page enough on Facebook that the algorithm always shows me John, and then it's always showing me his stuff, and so I'm always liking it. And it's like
on the same. Yeah.
I'm not stalking you, John.
I think that's how the algorithms work. If you don't kiss ass, not kick ass. If you don't kiss ass, it doesn't turn up. Yeah. So the people I want to see in my sort of bubble, I just keep on liking and liking and liking. Yeah. And it works that way. That's why you always pop up, John, which is nice.
Yeah, because you want to like the people who you like, so it really does work that way. And John's stuff is always coming into my feed, but it's great stuff. I mean, those commissions he's doing. I mean, I remember the first sketch I got from John was a Jenny Sparks.
Oh, so I did the Monarchy. I was his editor on the Monarchy.
Oh, right.
Wow!
And on on Jenny Sparks. I mean, that was before Mark Miller was, Mark Miller in big neon
I
lights.
wonder if we can do a 6 Degrees of John Layman one day.
There would be a lot of people. I've been around for a long time.
You're the Kevin Bacon of the comics world, John.
Yeah. Well, actually, what I'll have to do, John, I'll have to get you onto my audio podcast, because we do a sort of history of the creator, and we can go back into your illustrious career.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, it started in 1997, so that old Wildstorm stuff, man. I mean, like Authority and Planetary and Astro City and Sparks.
It's a good pedigree, mate. It's a good pedigree. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really good stuff. And do you have fond memories of those days? Are they happy days?
I have fond memories of Wildstorm until DC took over. When I started, it wasn't the boom. It wasn't the buy new car. You get this issue out and we'll buy you a new car. But it was still, hey, it's Friday. We're shutting down at 2:30, and we're opening up the company credit card at the bar across the street to get hammered. Jim Lee would throw these parties, and they he threw an Arabian Nights party where he had a camel at the party where everyone could ride the camel, and it was
brilliant.
Talk about excess.
And Jim was a 30-something multimillionaire with his own company, and if Jim wanted to do something, he could do it. Hey Jim, we have this neat idea. Oh yeah, I love it. Do it. And then DC took over, and they're like, hey DC, we've got this neat idea. Well, write up a proposal in triplicate, and we'll have 50 meetings about it, and then we'll think about it, and then we'll focus test it, and then
we'll dilute the hell out of it. We'll dilute the hell out of it.
Yeah. And so it went from really fun to this sort of bureaucracy, and nothing against DC, but they had their own way of doing it, and they weren't used to a bunch of freewheeling kids just doing whatever the fuck they wanted. And after that, I'd been doing it for about 5 years, and then there was a lot of ugliness with Mark Miller's Authority, and I was the editor, and the editor got caught holding the bag, and I kind of got a lot of mud on myself from that, because Mark would get on All the Rage or whatever Rich Johnston things it was, and he'd be like, DC is a bunch of bastards and they're censoring me and blah blah blah, but John Layman is great. And I'm like, Mark, you're not necessarily helping me.
He probably thought he was doing you a favor. He was doing you a favor, He's like, oh, we'll make out John's the good man, But at the same time, you're in the middle, man. We talked about that before, didn't we? It's not a nice place to be sometimes.
I think I had edited about 200 books over 5 or 6 years, and sort of. I made my contacts. I knew how to do a script. I knew how to not do a script, and things had kind of run their course anyways. And they weren't going to get less bureaucratic. And that's when I made the jump to freelance. Yeah. And then just, you hope every gig is a little better than the next.
And never look back.
Yeah. Except on podcasts.
We'll always dredge up the past on these kind of things.
Look back and look both ways.
But the early Wildstorm days were wild and fun, and a lot of those guys, like the consumer products guys, when DC took over, they had their own consumer products division, so they let them all go, and those guys became IDW. And a lot of the teenagers that were in what we called the pit, the coloring pit, they went on to be, the superstar colorists of today. Laura Martin and David Barron and Alex Sinclair and Justin Posner and Matt Mia. The coloring pedigree of Wildstorm is just huge. They're all still around, and they're all just superstars.
I mean, a lot of those guys, they did some great work. I remember Wildstorm, the colouring was actually quite advanced compared to a lot of other comics. They were breaking new ground, weren't they?
The argument, DC bought Wildstorm for Jim Lee and for the coloring. The coloring was a huge part of it because they were it's the best coloring in comics.
They were so advanced. They were trying new stuff. It was new technology was being employed, and those comics, they jumped off the shelves as well. The design,
but it's so funny because it took 20 minutes to save a page. As an editor, you need to make these noodly changes, and you'd save, and then the person would walk downstairs and have a cigarette or a coffee, and then we still output film, CMYK film, and then FedEx left at 5:30, but you could drive downtown and you'd have until like 6:15 on a Friday, and so you would be pushing this film to the last minute.
Oh God!
And Jim Lee or somebody would hand you the film because you got to overnight it to Canada, and he'd be like, drive as fast as you can to FedEx. If you get a ticket, I'll pay for it.
He can afford it.
He can afford it.
Did he ever lend you? I was going to say, did he ever lend you the camel to go across town?
but now you everything's FTP, everything's electronic. Like I really feel like a dinosaur because I remember the old film days and the 20-minute saving of pages.
John, I'm sure I remember having to put computer games as a tape into a tape recorder and put things like Quasimodo and Cubert. So that's really old school.
Yeah. I mean, we are lucky. We're spoiled, aren't we? Now with the technology and how quickly we can turn things around. I mean, producing a comic is, the mechanics of it are a lot easier, but the craft and the skill still the same old way, isn't it?
Yep. And I think if anything, there's probably a lot more comics out, which makes it's good for the consumer, but it's bad for I guess the creator because if there's 500 comics out there, that's a lot of competition per month.
And everyone's got a finite amount of money to spend on comics, haven't they?
Yeah, and comics
and they're not getting cheaper.
Now. No, I mean, I was just talking to this about to my local comic shop, saying that I'm probably going to have to either cut down what the comics I'm ordering or buy more stuff as trades. And I've always been a floppies guy. I've always bought the comics.
I've heard that about you, Shane.
I knew you were going to do that. Well, I've always bought the monthlies, but it's got to the point now where I'm finding it hard to justify all of the monthlies that I want to read.
Or you have to be really careful. Like you can't be like, well, maybe I'll pick this up. Maybe this will be okay because you're skipping lunch to buy this comic book. And it's these days, if you're going to buy it, you kind of want a sure thing.
Yeah, definitely. So you're looking at reviews more. You're trying to find out what's good. You're taking more in from recommendations, and because I do that. I mean, that's a tradition I always had. Was every month I'd go pick up my comics from the comic shop because I always do it monthly, and I'd always say, suggest me a couple of things. I'll try a couple of new things. But now it's like, can I afford to do that? Especially if it's a prestige book, like if it's £5 or
yeah. I mean, that new Sandman Lock and Key book was beautiful, but what it was like $7.99 or something. It's like, oh, DC, you're really. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy it no matter what, and that.
Well, you're pushing your luck, aren't you? At that sort of price point, and I found that. I mean, and some of the Marvel stuff as well. There's a few series that are a little bit more. There was that Neil Adams Fantastic Four one. I gave that a try, but that was like $4.99 a book, and I think the Maestro book. With Pete, I mean, I'll always buy Peter David. I love Peter David's writing. So I tried that, but I think that was £4 or something like that. For just a comic. It's a lot of money, and when then the trade comes out and it's like £12 for a 5-issue arc.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing because Image really wanted the new Chew trade to be $9.99. They're like, well, the original series first one was, and it's like, well, yeah, that was 10 years ago. And also, the floppies then were $2.99. Now they're $3.99. Like, why wouldn't you trade weight? Which it's a shitty thing because I trade weight too, but floppies pay my electric bill. They pay my monthly grocery bill. So it's a weird balance. And then you also have Kindle, Comixology. it's real easy to press a button and get it electronically, and then you're cutting your retailer out.
Yeah. If someone gets affected somewhere, whatever change you make to your buying habits, don't they? I mean, the reason I bought the monthlies was because I wanted to support the creators, because I knew that was the best way of doing it, and it's the reason I still do buy monthlies.
Well, if anything, I tend to buy, like I do with my music, I tend to buy more indie stuff nowadays, and that for me, that's where the action is. And I mean, John, you mentioned Lock and Key, but me and Shane were saying what IDW seem to do really well is pick and choose their creator-owned projects very well. And certainly with Bermuda, see what I've done there, bringing it full circle. With Bermuda, I do think it's, it is in that good company, and it does shine. Whereas, in other companies, there is a lot more. But with IDW, which is known for franchises, I certainly do pay attention when something new comes out from them, whether it's Lock and Key, Bermuda, or whatever.
The other thing about IDW is they've got really high production values. Like, you're going to pay $5, but you're going to get a heavy cardstock cover. You're going to get like really, nice paper that makes every, the lines and the colors. So like, I don't balk too much at a $5 IDW book because I know it's going to feel more consequential than a Marvel floppy for $4.99.
Yeah. And I do think the future of comics in print is to go with high quality. I think publishers like IDW are going to survive, whereas publishers that put out, low quality print, that's just going to go digital. Whereas people still want to handle nice printed objects, whether it's a hardback book or a really nice prestige comic book. I think there's always going to be a market for that.
That will get you into the comic book store. Whereas if you're a publisher, putting something on newsprint for $2, that means the retailer is only making $1 rather than, half of a higher quality book. So, that's, and a higher quality book's going to kind of stand the test of time a little better, it won't get dog-eared and, thrashed so easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want a longer shelf life these days, don't you? Because a lot of the stuff, I've noticed that as well, the attention span of readers. It's just consumers in general, whether it's movies, music, comics.
Well, there's so much
short,
out there.
Isn't it? It's so short, the attention span. It's like, read that, watch that, next. We used to watch movies over and over and over, constantly. I've got videotapes that snapped because I've watched them too many times,
Well,
Debbie Does Dallas, wasn't it?
I think that could be generational because, I've got a teenager and I'm like, hey, do you want to watch Avengers Endgame again? No, I've seen it. Why would I want to watch a movie twice? Yeah. And it's like, shit, when I was a kid, I watched Ghostbusters every day all summer.
God, I watched that a lot of times. Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The one mate who had Star Wars on video, I remember, Andrew Green, I remember him now. Every day I was around his house. Can we have Star Wars on? And it obviously just got grainier and grainier and grainier with every sort of viewing. Nowadays, everything's crystal clear from the word go.
Yeah.
Listen, kids are spoiled today, I tell you.
Amen to that.
And on that happy note.
On that bombshell.
Well, thanks again for waiting. I'm sorry we got the time.
Hey, look, it's been great. I just hope Shane's not dying of bloody diabetes.
I'm hanging in.
You get in there, but John, it's been
what a way to go.
Catching up. Yeah, man.
Definitely. It'd be on my gravestone. I died talking to John Layman. So, but it's been a pleasure, mate. It really has. Thanks so much.
John.
Anytime.
Great finally catching up with you, mate.
All right, guys.
See you soon, boys. See you
again soon. All the best. Good night.